What is going on, you guys? Admiral Tori here, and welcome aboard for another World of Warships video on my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be sailing the Tier 7 American heavy cruiser, the Pensacola. So the Pensacola is probably one of the most well-known cruisers of World of Warships for the USN tech tree line, because many people say this ship is probably the worst ship to play on the US tech tree line of any sort. Much worse than the Colorado to a degree from what I heard, but for being Tier 7, it is one of the pitfalls of Tier 7 of many other ships that people claim. So I've already played the Nagato and also played the Colorado. Now it's the Pensacola turn, because the Nagato, Colorado, Pensacola, and also from what I heard, the York seems to be a terrible ship. Now for the Colorado, in my Colorado video long time ago, I explained how you really should play the Colorado and what makes her a great ship to a degree, on how you really make your decision to play the Colorado correctly, and how it is different from the New Mexico, and why many players who claim that the Colorado was a terrible ship might not be playing the Colorado correctly. Because in that video, I was actually able to pull off a 150k to 200k 2 games back to back with the Colorado. And the definition of a terrible ship is usually you just can't pull 90% of the time. You're probably pulling a below average game. But for that to happen in my Colorado video, I think that was proven that the Colorado is not an entirely terrible ship. Now the Nagato. I had the Nagato for a long time, and people say the Nagato was a terrible ship, but after adapting and learning all the things that requires a fully skilled Nagato to understand how to play the Nagato just happens to be my second best ship on this account. So I'm not quite sure how to quote on that. If it was a terrible ship, then it should have been like on the bottom of my list, and it would, at least be sold and never been touched again. But I still have my Nagato on my dots, or more accurately, my Nagato video, I repurchased the Nagato because, I said that I sold the Nagato to get something else, and now I finally got the cash to buy it again and do a video about her, because I really do enjoy playing the Nagato. So today, we're gonna make history today, because today, we got the Pensacola. What can I say about the Pensacola? Well, recently, I can say that I unlocked the Pensacola, and I have finally got her fully upgraded to do a video about her. There are many words that are coming out my mouth, and I'm not sure how to put it in a good way, or in a sense of, very in an easy way for people to understand. Because the Pensacola, from what I heard, this is the worst ship that you would ever play on the American tech tree line, and you're translating from a Cleveland to a Pensacola, so a lot of players didn't really expect what they want from the Pensacola to improve upon the Cleveland. Since the day I played World of Warships to the day of making this video, the Pensacola is still being well known as one of the terrible ships for a lot of players out there who started to play the Pensacola. And I can say right now, if you do not like the Pensacola, don't really bother with, trying to grind for the Des Moines, because the New Orleans will play something similar to the Pensacola with several improvements, and I believe the Baltimore will also play the same way as the New Orleans with also improvements until you get the Des Moines, because the Des Moines is more of a mixture of the Pensacola guns, or not really the Pensacola gun, the Baltimore guns that are highly rapid fire with the Cleveland style to it, with some Cleveland armor in a tier 10 sense. But the Pensacola, when I unlocked her, I played the game and I got Unleash the Kraken. Now, Unleash the Kraken, for those people who don't know about the Unleash the Kraken and you just happen to be new to World of Warships, it is an achievement that you get for securing 5 kills. Now the keyword is securing 5 kills, so it might KS people, but in that case, I was able to pull off 100k damage, and unfortunately, I did not record that game. I don't really record games that are, when I don't really do a full video or not feeling the full video, but I think I should have recorded that game. That game was quite awesome, and I started to question, is it really true that the Pensacola is a terrible ship? Now, the next 4 games, I still end up on the top 5 of the leaderboard. And now I'm starting to tap my toe and thinking, Pensacola is probably one of my most favorite cruisers to play. And this is when I just bought her, meaning that I don't have any upgrades on her, or my captain was still new. So, when the people say that the Pensacola is a terrible ship, I'm not sure why it is, but I can say with my scientific knowledge, with the scientific procedures, the problem-solving skills that you learn from school, you can make a observation and you can make, a prediction why people say the Pensacola is a terrible ship. And the possible reason why people say the Pensacola is a terrible ship is you freaking bring Cleveland-style gameplay to a Pensacola. You bring Cleveland to a Pensacola. You just don't do that. You don't bring a Yamato gameplay to a Shimakaze gameplay. You just don't do that. You bring the understanding of the Yamato's weakness into a Shimakaze gameplay and capitalize on it. But you don't play the Shimakaze like a goddamn Yamato. You just don't go out in the middle of the field and expect your secondaries, if there are such things as secondaries, even though they're really your primaries on a Shimakaze, and fight another battleship. So when people bring the Cleveland to the Pensacola, there is a big miscommunication on how you should play the Pensacola. So first things first, let's talk about what is a Pensacola. The Pensacola is a cruiser that was built in the 1920s, around the 1920s or maybe early 1930s, originally designated as a light cruiser. Later on, she was upgraded into a heavy cruiser due to her bigger guns. Now, her artillery gun are 203 millimeters, and I don't know the exact inches on that, but I'm assuming most of you guys might be more into the standard metric system, the SI unit. So, 203 millimeter. Now, the Cleveland, being a newer ship, in historically speaking, it was launched in 1940s, right before the war, or might be during the war in the Pacific, is a newer ship than the Pensacola, arguably. But why is the Pensacola higher than Cleveland? Now, the Pensacola, like I said, it was laid down as a light cruiser, or classified as a light cruiser. Later on, when they upgraded her, she was classified as a heavy cruiser. The Cleveland, when she was laid down and launched, she is classified as a light cruiser. The Atlanta is a light cruiser. The Omaha is a light cruiser. Practically every tier 7 ship below the Pensacola, Indianapolis for the American Tech Tree line are considered light cruisers. The Pensacola is a heavy cruiser. What does that mean? What the hell is a heavy cruiser and a light cruiser? Well, I could tell you certainly you don't bring a light cruiser gameplay into a heavy cruiser. Now, it seems to me that most people who are playing light cruisers expect that a heavy cruiser would play like a light cruiser. There's a good reason why people created different types of categories, because each ship will probably do different things when they're in different classes, because you don't mix in the cruisers and the battleship together, or even though they have something called a hybrid like the battle cruiser, but they're not exactly the same ship, because cruisers have lighter armor than battleship, smaller guns than battleships, and battleship bigger guns. Everything's opposite, but in a trade-off, the cruisers are more agile, and they also have a higher fire rate than a battleship, so there are several trade-offs. For the heavy cruiser and light cruiser, I've talked about this in my Nuremberg video, I believe. Light cruisers tend to have smaller guns than heavy cruisers, which is the biggest thing that divides the two. Now, the Cleveland just happens to be one of the odd ships for being classified as a light cruiser and has very thick armor, which is why a lot of people prefer the Cleveland armor over the Pensacola, and I can certainly agree with you on that. The Cleveland certainly does have a better survivability than the Pensacola, but there's also something that the Pensacola has over the Cleveland, making her a acceptable tier 7 over the Cleveland, and that is she has big guns. If you take a look at the tier 7 ships and above for the cruiser line for all the nations, like the Germans, the Russians, or the Japanese, most likely they got big guns. The thing that separates the big guns and the small guns is that the small guns, I explained this with the small guns, when you shoot them, they shoot faster than the big guns, obviously, because it's easier to load smaller shells into those smaller caliber guns. But those small guns are pretty much unable to penetrate the armor if the ship is well angled. No matter how thin the armor is, if it's angled, it will not penetrate unless your caliber is big enough to penetrate the armor. So in this case, if the Pensacola or another tier 7 cruiser angles against the Cleveland can't do crap about it because the AP would just bounce off. Now you're probably stopping me there. It's like, oh, well, the Cleveland is not merely meant for AP, it's meant for HE. And yes, I did state that the Cleveland is better off with HE because of her higher fire rate and her smaller caliber and the shell arc. The arc of the shell, the arc of the trajectory. When you fire with the Cleveland at 15 kilometers, you're gonna be producing a rainbow effect, if I were to describe it. When you fire off a Pensacola, you're gonna be producing a spear-like effect that's gonna impale your ship. So when you're firing with the Cleveland, it's a longer time to actually get there because you're following a longer path. And if you don't believe me, think of a triangle. You know, a triangle. You got the bottom side of the triangle, and then you got the side that you go up. So you start from the bottom, from right to left, and then bottom to top. Or you could take a shortcut, which is what you call the hypotenuse. If people took geometry, I don't know how many of you guys took geometries. That is a shorter path. Since the hypotenuse is a shorter path, that is basically what a Cleveland and a Pensacola combine. You know, if you compare them and you combine their attributes, the Pensacola has the hypotenuse. It has a sharper angle. It has a shorter trajectory. It has big guns, meaning that your shells will get there much faster, and they will most likely take the opportunity to penetrate a citadel because by the time it gets there, the enemy cruiser won't have the chance to actually angle because the shells are just there already, meaning that you can actually penetrate the citadel. With the Cleveland, you're taking the longer path, and you got smaller caliber shells, meaning that you had to do, in order to do damage to compensate against a heavy gun or bigger gun like the Pensacola. Say for instance, if the Pensacola lands one shot, it does the damage on the cruiser. In order to do the same amount of damage, you might have to land 3 shells or 2 shells if I don't want to over exaggerate. So if it takes longer to get to your target, and you have to land more shells to be equivalent in damage like the Pensacola, when the Pensacola can get there right on time, and also you have a better chance of using AP to penetrate citadels, and also your shells does more damage per salvo than a lighter shell like the Cleveland. You tell me which ship is more effective with its guns. Certainly, I hope you say the Pensacola, because the Pensacola will give you better results than the Cleveland. Now the Cleveland, yes, the Cleveland can have a high fire rate, but you remember in my Cleveland video, the drawback with the high fire rate and long shell time is that if the enemy sees it from a far distance, which is like 13 to 15 kilometers, he can just change his course and then make it much more difficult for you to land shells with a Cleveland. And if you're not landing the shells to make up for every shot like a Pensacola would do, because the Pensacola shells are usually guaranteed once you get the hang of the gun since the shells gets there faster, then you're not making up for the damage what a Pensacola would do, which is why, I repeat, the Pensacola will do a better job than the Cleveland. Now, the Cleveland can beat the Pensacola, and the only way I can think that is conceivable that the Pensacola can lose against the Cleveland is that the Pensacola shows a broadside against the Cleveland, and they're engaging at 5 to 10 kilometers. And I personally think the Cleveland is one of the most difficult ships to citadel because the citadel area, what constitutes a citadel on the Cleveland, it's quite weird the way they made it because the citadel is actually chopped in half and it's really small. While the Pensacola has a citadel similar to like a Omaha, which is basically predictable because you can just see the citadel. If you see these 2 smokestacks, that is pretty much how huge the engine room on the Pensacola. So whenever a battleship actually hits right here on the waterline, it is guaranteed a citadel. On the Cleveland, it's separated, even though there's 2 smokestacks here. One part of the citadel is right here, and the other one's like on the other half. So if you try to hit the center, it doesn't count, and the citadel is very small, and the Cleveland does have very nice armor and a very thin profile, so it's harder to actually citadel a Cleveland. So yeah, if it's a 5 to 10 kilometers engagement, the shell arc isn't a problem because you're very close and it won't produce that rainbow effect if I were to describe it. And also you have 12 guns. You have more guns than the Pensacola, and these guns shoot much faster than Pensacola. And I'm pretty sure you're capable of actually penetrating the Pensacola Citadel if it shows a very flat broadside. So at a brawling distance of 5 to 10 kilometers, you can win with the Cleveland against the Pensacola, no doubt about it, from what I've seen and how I feel about the Cleveland. But remember when I talked about the small guns, the Cleveland has small guns. If the Pensacola player just points the bow against the Cleveland shell is not gonna do any damage with its AP, and logically you would switch to HE. And yes, HE will do damage, but the Pensacola has bigger guns, and he can potentially, if you show your broadside once, he can take out a third of your health on the Cleveland. And if you choose to go bow on bow attack, I think the Pensacola will still win because Pensacola's shells just do a lot of damage. And if the Pensacola player is really skilled, he can low AP, knock out your two front guns, because I don't think these turrets have a lot of armor. Just knock those two out, forcing the enemy, whoever's in the Cleveland, to actually turn broadside and show his rear gun if you want to continue the battle. And the moment you show that that broadside in order to show your rear guns, he can just citadel you and win the battle. And how did I know about this? Well, there was a gameplay that I did not record, unfortunately, but the story goes by this. It was an unupgraded Pensacola. A man named Hattori was on that ship. He was going against two Clevelands. It was the beginning of the match, playing on the map called North. Now, Hattori wants to take the flag, and that was in his instinct because the game was domination. Whoever captured the flags wins. Now, unfortunately, he didn't realize there was not many teammates around to help him. So, in the Pensacola, he was going against two Clevelands. Now, the two Clevelands sounds like a better chance of winning against that one Pensacola, considering the odds on 2-on-1. And also, a lot of people are saying that the Cleveland better than the Pensacola in every sort of way. But unfortunately, for those people who really think that I will lose, I actually won the battle. How did I do it? Well, maybe because the Cleveland players weren't that brilliant or smart. They were showing broadside, and it only took me 1 to 2 broadside shots to just take 3/4 of their health and then finish them off with HE after realizing that they should not show the broadside. And after killing that first Cleveland, the second Cleveland did not learn his lesson, and he decided to join in because I was half health against that first Cleveland who did a lot of damage. Now he decided to trade his broadside for 12 guns, meaning that he's selling broadside. Basically, he took me down another quarter of my health, leaving me only 25% of my health alive. But for him, coming from full health to 0 health because he was showing broadside, I was able to citadel him several times and then winning the battle, capturing flag, and then also died because the battleship decided to finish me off. Because what can I do? I was facing two Clevelands and I was really battle scarred after that engagement. But yeah, if the Pensacola was that bad, I would instantly lose that battle. But I certainly did not. So overall, I really do like the Pensacola. And maybe it's just my luck, and maybe it's because I'm lucky I win against unskilled players. But at the end of the day, what people say, the Pensacola is the worst ship ever. The meaning of worst means that it will never get any result. But I happen to get results against two Clevelands, what people claim that Cleveland is better than Pensacola. And also, my first game, or first several games, I was able to get Unleash the Kraken, and the other games that I followed up before I get the Pensacola fully upgraded from those games, I still managed to reach the top 5 list with at least 2 to 3 kills and maybe 50 to 10k damage, which is quite impressive on a cruiser. So what can I really say about the Pensacola, and how do I really feel about her? The Pensacola is in the same situation as I explained in my Colorado and Nagato video. It seems to me that tier 7 is a very important tier where it separates the men from the boys. You gotta start learning how to play these higher tier ships basically. That's what tier 7 tells you. It's telling you how you should really play ships, when to show your broadside, when not to show your broadside. How important is your aim, which is another thing, because with the Cleveland, you can shoot as much as you want because of the high fire rate. But with the Pensacola, if you can't land any shots, then you won't get anything back, no results, making the Cleveland sounds like a favorable choice. But like I said, the Cleveland can't do so well at long distances due to the long shell travel time. So if you're in the Pensacola against the Cleveland at a long distance, it doesn't matter how well you're aiming with the Cleveland. You can just adjust your Pensacola into a different direction, and then you have to readjust the aim. And by the time you readjust your aim, the Pensacola will be a different direction, dodging even more of your shells. While the Pensacola retaliating against that Cleveland, trying to kill the Pensacola at 13-15 kilometers. Knowing for a fact that your shells does more damage per shot, and also your shells getting there much faster than the Cleveland, so the Cleveland can't really outmaneuver those shots, making you a better player. That's if you can land those shells. Sounds very similar to the Colorado Nagato. When I talk about the Colorado Nagato, the Fuso and the New Mexico before the Colorado Nagato have 12 guns. People love those guns because you got a lot of guns. The only problem is that those are 14-inch guns. On the Nagato in Colorado, you get the 16-inch guns on the Colorado. Excuse me, I'm like losing my voice here, but the Colorado get the 16-inch guns. The Nagato get the 16.1-inch guns. Those guns pack more punch than the 14-inch guns. Those guns can actually citadel more easily than those 14-inch guns. Those guns outscale the 14-inch guns at a distance. Those guns can actually do more damage at a angled target on average, much more damage than those 14-inch guns. This is basically the same thing as the Cleveland Pensacola case. When you get in the higher tiers, you're pretty much expected to learn how to play the heavy cruisers, because from what I've seen, heavy cruiser are designed for cruiser-to-cruiser combat, while light cruiser are designed for self-defense in a sense, but mainly to escort other ships, which is why Americans really like the Cleveland, because they're very ideal ships to escort the carriers. They're very light, they are fast enough to keep up with the carrier because they're considered light cruisers, which is why they pack a lot of anti-air. And Atlanta is also a perfect example because Atlanta is a light cruiser, and her main armaments are considered anti-air armaments for this game. So yeah, light cruisers tend to be supports, while heavy cruisers tend to be a brawling type of ship. Which is why when you find the higher tier ships in the cruiser line as you go down, you're going to be playing heavy cruisers because those cruisers are designed to fight other cruisers. And that's what you want in the high tiers, because you're trying to fight other cruisers, because mainly you're going to be engaging other cruisers, since this is a World of Warships thing when you're fighting other ships. Now, if this game actually rewards players for escorting and supporting thing, which it doesn't really do that, then yeah, maybe light cruiser could be a considerable choice in the high tiers, but they don't have that kind of system, so light cruiser is not really a good idea. And if you try to engage a high tier heavy cruiser, a player who knows how to play heavy cruiser, you're most likely gonna lose against those heavy cruisers, theoretically. Not always, because there's always that random moment where you can actually win a match, but I can certainly tell you that it's much more difficult to kill a heavy cruiser and a light cruiser, especially when you go against a player who knows how to aim with their heavy cruisers and with their big guns, and they know how to maneuver your shots. But yeah, the Pensacola is not a terrible ship. I just don't believe it's a terrible ship. The only major drawback I have with the Pensacola is that her citadel, and obviously, like I said in my Cleveland video, the Cleveland is just abnormally good with his armor. So it's not that bad in terms of armor. If you're getting citadel from the front against a battleship, most likely you're too close to the battleship, or you're going against 16-inch guns. Those 16-inch guns are just guaranteed to citadel your ship no matter what until you hit tier 9 and 10, which is when the armor on those cruisers can actually bounce those 16-inch shells at the bow at a distance. But for now, tier 7 is kind of mixing in with random stuff with the good and the bad. But overall, the way I feel about the Pensacola, she is really a good ship, and like I said, she's definitely top on one of my favorite ships. And for people who play Japanese heavy cruisers, they probably understand what I'm talking about, because the Pensacola plays exactly like the Japanese heavy cruiser. It doesn't place anywhere near the Cleveland or the Omaha or any of those light cruisers. It just plays completely different, and that's what you gotta learn from the Pensacola. If you're not doing so well with the Pensacola, you're most likely not playing the Pensacola on it should be, unless there's a chance that you just one of the most unluckiest person on this planet and kicking Citadel in the beginning of the match, or you're either doing something wrong, you're extremely lucky, and you pretty much can't do anything about it. But the Pensacola, I do not believe that the Pensacola is a terrible ship. It's just a ship that has a huge learning curve that you gotta adapt to, and once you understand how the Pensacola can, play, she's actually extremely effective. Now, there's some features I really like about the Pensacola, and that is her maneuverability. Her maneuverability gives her such a good chance to actually dodge shells, so that compensates for having weak armor. But there is a chance that you can actually get Citadel, and if a 16-inch shell lands on top of your deck like this, it will Citadel you. If it lands on the side, it will Citadel you. But like I said, if you try your best to evade these shots and get tricky with your WASD hacks, then you can certainly outplay a battleship and do a lot of damage with your HE or AP. And if I recall correctly, these AP shells are pretty deadly, especially on the New Orleans, which is a ship that I'm hoping to unlock in the future. So aside from that, let's get in the match and see what I can really do with the Pensacola, and in order to prove my point also. Alrighty, you guys, we are in the match with the Pensacola, the infamous ship of all USN cruisers. So we're playing on the estuary, Domination, going against two Colorados, New York, Congo, Pensacola, York, Cleveland, Königsberg, three destroyers with the Hatsuharu, Bliskowika, Minekaze, and they also have a tier 6 carrier, which is something I'm not that concerned of because American cruisers tend to have really good anti-air. I'm gonna pop that fighter plane here, because fighter planes are very useful, even though whether you go against a carrier or not, but they help scout for torpedoes that are up ahead, sometimes by chance and sometimes they don't, but it's better than nothing. I don't really use them for any reason, so I might as well just pop them anyway, almost like right before I get to my distance shot. Pop them, not too early, not too late. So I'm gonna try to figure out what we're dealing with here. It looks like we're spotted. Enemy Pensacola. He looks like he's slowing down. Hello, AP. Alright. Let's see what this Cleveland has. Ooh. Oh, that's a lot of damage. I think we should get out of here big time because we're outnumbered. So I normally try to play the Pensacola as a getaway ship. Not as an aggressive ship, but a getaway. Yeah, it took some great deal amount of damage, but it's okay. No big deal. Just start wiggling that tail, guys. Just wiggle it. Like a dog's tail. Just keep wiggling it. Oh, he's so dead. So I'm gonna cut the speed here. So I don't want to get out of distance. I want to maintain that 10 to 15 kilometer distance. That is the sweet spot. And look at this Pensacola. He's sailing broadside. Oh great, I can't tell how fast he's going now. Oh, that was too much lead. Or is it? Okay. So it looks like this Cleveland has beached itself. Just fire at the Cleveland. Now Pensacola is going to be around that island. 6,000 damage. Look at that. The Pensacola is extremely accurate. I can give him that. Let's load. Actually, let's keep the HE loaded because that Pensacola is going to appear right around that island. But the thing about the Pensacola, it has such great angle when you're running away. Like, look at that. Alright, that's a tough shot right there. Hopefully we can get a Citadel. Just take your time on your shots, and you will land them. Ooh, just in time. Oh, look at that. A Citadel, guys. Look at that. See, look. You can actually do this in the heavy cruisers. You just can't do that in the Cleveland or the light cruisers in general. So we're able to actually citadel at a distance. Now, arguably, you might have to play a little bit passive with the Pensacola. You can't go battleborn, hardcore brawling with the Pensacola. Pensacola doesn't do so well in that situation because her citadel is a big area. But when you have the opportunity to do that and you're in that good scenario, that perfect scenario, do it. But when you don't, then you gotta work with what you have. But the Pensacola is not entirely a bad brawler. And let's try to kill this Pensacola. He's still selling broadside, but he's so far away. Normally I want to load HE when his targets are that far away. Looks like I'm giving too much lead here. I'm gonna hold my shot. He's gonna show up broadside. Just hold your shot. When you have an opportunity to do like more damage, because somebody's gonna show up broadside sooner or later, just hold it and wait for it. Like that. See, like that. Your shots gets there on time. Okay, let's load HE because I think this Pensacola is just gonna sail away now. So at this point, you just want to do overall good damage. That looks like he's not angling. I'm not sure why. Oh, now I really wish I had AP loaded. It's okay. Just angle. The armor is not that bad if you angle with the Pensacola. Okay, now we're gonna bear guns to the port side. We're gonna load AP here. And I'm gonna use this island to get in position. Although I'm gonna show my broadside, I could be a dead man, but using my brain, some people don't take a moment to think. There's an island there that protects me, and for a second I wasn't spotted. But I know there's a New York, a almost dead Pensacola, and a Königsberg. So now they're gonna start shooting at me. And this is the part where I just try to get away. Oh no, I'm gonna run an island. I didn't even notice. It's okay. It's part of the plan. Like that. Citadel with big guns, right? Big guns. Big guns equal profit. I'm angled. Let's try to get out of here as fast as we can. ASAP. Oh, look at those light guns. Those small guns. Königsberg light guns, huh? Those little small guns, they can't really penetrate, but those New York guns can, so I'm gonna get out of here. So I want to try to get up to speed here. Oh yeah, that's what I'm talking about. We're getting some feedback here, guys. Oh, that New York wants to join on the party to shoot at the Pensacola, huh? So look. See, the Königsberg is a light cruiser. This is a good example. He can't hit me because I can see his shells coming toward me. I can easily dodge them. Hopefully I can. Oh, they bounce. And remember, when you're in a light cruiser, the shells will start to drop off at a distance. So I'm gonna load HE because that New York is gonna be around that corner. I'm gonna wait for that New York to pop. He's right around here. Come on, New York. Now I don't want to get out of distance. Oh my god, I'm about to run an island again. Let's turn our guns to starboard side now. Luckily, we're going full speed, so I don't want to hit that island. Hey, how'd I miss that? Oh, he's backing up. That little rascal's backing up. I'm gonna cut the speed. So maybe half. Half speed is a good idea to go half speed. We got a hit. Start maneuvering those shots. Ooh, 14. Those are 14-inch shells, guys. Those 14. I get hit by one of those. Now, unfortunately, the Pensacola does have pretty terrible concealment. Even in new, it almost has like American battleship concealment basically. So we're gonna start moving toward the center of the map and try to get to the A side, because the A side seems to be there's a lot of action going on there. Luckily, we do have the flag dominance. Yes, a strategic target. So look at my score, my little tags. I got 42 hits, and that's with the Pensacola. If you can get at least 50 to 100 hits, that means you're doing good with the Pensacola, because that is a lot of hits for these big guns. Now you also have to incorporate with the Citadels, and also I was able to sunk one ship. I don't know what ship oh, the Pensacola. I sunk one of the Pensacola's, that's right. But although the Pensacola could do a lot of damage, at the end of the day, I did mention that when it comes to the USN lines, their ships tend to be more of a support. So although the Pensacola is a heavy cruiser, and I said that the heavy cruiser plays like a brawler, there is a degree where it's a mix. It's not entirely a brawler, nor is it entirely a support like a light cruiser. But it still has both features, and it's kind of on the line, and not directly perfectly, but it's on the line. My god, let's pop our fighter here. It looks like that Königsberg is coming back for more.
Fighter airborne.
Not sure I can actually get that Königsberg. Let's stick here. Let's stick around here. They're probably gonna capture the flag. Yeah, they're probably gonna capture the flag. I won't even get to A on time. Did New York fire at me? Oh no, it's Königsberg. Königsberg fired on me. Königsberg thinks he's clever. He's gonna try to shoot over the island. New York still wants more. Oh my gosh. Well, I think they're ganging up on me because I'm low health. Let's fire there. Turn our guns port side. Hopefully I don't run an island here. We're gonna make ourselves a difficult target to get shot by from that New York. I'm assuming that Königsberg will dodge my shots. He'll be aiming a little higher. Oh. Well, those are over pen. We're gonna run an island here, so. Hey, Königsberg, you gotta grab the flag or what, man? Because you guys are starving in points. So I can easily dodge his shells. And he can't do anything about it because his shells takes time. Oh, we got a Citadel. Nice. We're making money, guys. Let it rain. Stop the fire here.
The ship is on fire.
Oh, now he's hiding behind the island.
Problem solved, sir.
That's such a coward move. Okay, there he is. And if I recall correctly, there's a possibility I can actually penetrate his Citadel from the front. Although he's angled. Love the maneuverability on the Pensacola, really do. Oh, he set me on fire again.
The ship is on fire.
My damage control will come up in 20 some seconds. Alright, I'm gonna gamble it and show a broadside. I'm assuming he's gonna go onto the D flag. Oh yeah, he's going to. Come on, show up. Are you kidding me? He's not gonna show up. No, he doesn't. He's not going to the D flag? It's quite odd. Felt the fire here. Oh, see, that is a perfect example why the Pensacola is a tier higher than the Cleveland. The Königsberg shell speed, although you know the Königsberg shell is not exactly like the Cleveland, the Königsberg has somewhat a similar shell speed to the Cleveland. I'm able to kite his shots because he's around the 12 to 15 kilometers range. Now, obviously, if I get closer, it's easier for him to hit, and there's a good chance that he'll take more health than me. But the ability for me to kite his shots and just fire one round and then point my stern at him allows me to dodge his shells and make myself a smaller target. Because with the light cruisers, like I said, with the light cruisers, it's all about shooting as much shells as you can downrange in order to compensate for that one salvo from a heavy cruiser from the Pensacola. So when you want to get all your guns to bear to become fully effective, you know, like, okay, let's take it Cleveland for example. To become fully effective with those guns, where's my Cleveland? It's gotta be over here somewhere. All right. To be fully effective, like I said, is all about the quantity with the light cruisers on the Cleveland. So if I want to become really effective, I might have to show my broadside in order to get my two guns in the back to bear for a longer time or a long period of time in order to keep firing those 12 shells down range to make up for each salvo from the Pensacola. So that gives it a higher chance to actually take more damage from a broadside. Although the Cleveland is one of the difficult ships, it's all about consistency. Okay, if you can get consistent results, meaning that you're consistently showing your broadside in order to get some results, that means you're gonna have to take a higher chance of actually taking more damage at the same time in order to do more damage on the enemy ship. So that makes it into what I call a double-edged sword. You want more damage, you gotta show more broadside with your ship. Although the Cleveland is still a really good ship for its armor, but you know, ships like Nuremberg or something like, I don't know, some other light cruiser that is high tier Atlanta, it has to show its broadside to become really effective. Because the front side, you only got 6 guns. Yeah, those guns fire rapidly, but you just don't feel enough power compared to a Pensacola. So the Pensacola, one salvo, like I said, is equals to 2 perfect salvo from the Cleveland. But what you see is that although these guns are bigger, they also reload slower. So when I show that, when the timing is right, when you time it right with the Pensacola, when you find that perfect opportunity to fire, you fire. So that means that one moment you show that broadside, you fire and you make that shot perfect. You gotta make that accuracy, you gotta aim, you're gonna take that time and opportunity to aim because you're better off hitting your shots than just shooting randomly and thinking that it's gonna land. You rather wait for the target to present itself a good target. If the target is too far away or the target is just making it making you struggle to hit, you're either gonna keep firing at him or choose not to fire and fire only when you know his patterns, his movement pattern, when he shows that broadside, and then you fire because that is where your shells make the worth of it. And after you fire, knowing for a fact that these guns take time to reload, you can take the opportunity to turn your ship around and angle yourself so you can minimize the damage. While with the Cleveland, the light cruisers, you have to show your broadside and constantly output damage, because if you don't show your broadside, you're not outputting as much damage to outperform a heavy cruiser like the Miyoko, the Pensacola, the York. They're just things that what makes a heavy cruiser a better brawler than a light cruiser. But arguably, like I said, in a scenario where you're up close and personal 5 to 10 kilometers, the light cruiser is pretty much shoulder to shoulder with a heavy cruiser, or even better in some certain scenarios. But yeah, at the end of the day, when you're in a high tier match, if you play any high tier match, if you just envision a high tier match, most likely you're going to be engaging targets at 10 to 20 kilometers away. And that's quite annoying for me, because that's why I don't like the high tier matches, because it's not as action packed as I wanted it to be. But just think about it. If you're engaging targets at 10 to 20 kilometers away, the only target that you ever engage is on the flag against a destroyer, which is like 5 to 10 kilometers. But those destroyers have a lot of torpedoes, so when you get too close to them, you can most likely die to them. So basically, if you're engaging 10 to 20 kilometers away, that is really your weak spot for being a light cruiser like the Cleveland. While in the Pensacola, your shells get there on time. Your shells do a lot of damage most of the time. And in the higher tiers, you go against those bigger battleships. If you ever show a broadside, those battleships will always take the opportunity to actually shoot you on your broadside. So with the Cleveland, you're probably going to get focus a lot because you like to show your broadside in order to output enough damage, with a combination of trying to get as close as possible, because that is the only way you can actually get damage, is getting close as possible, showing more broadside, and that means you're a dead man. Now, arguably, like I said, there's always those players out there who always have the exceptions. You might be at a far distance and somehow do a lot of damage without showing broadside, and I was considering that possibility. But for the most case scenario from what I've seen, not gonna happen. With the Pensacola, you can engage at 15 kilometers, put one salvo down, that is equal to like 5 salvos from the Cleveland, and do enough damage. Once you put that one salvo down, turn your ship, wait until while you turn your ship, you're presenting yourself as a harder target, so reducing the chance of being citadel or focused, because most people tend to focus targets who are much easier to hit. You just take a moment to look around. You see ships that show broadside, you usually pick that target over a ship that's angle. So after you become a angle target, people don't want to shoot at you, and while you're angling, you're waiting for your guns to reload, getting ready for the next salvo. Nothing to rush. The only thing that you have to really practice on is maintain that distance, maintain that speed, and also maintain that important skill of all World of Warships high tier players who play battleships, heavy cruisers, and I don't know, destroyers, but you know, any ship that deals with guns, is accuracy. Accuracy is what makes your ship worth. If you exclude RNG, I don't think RNG is a big deal when it comes to playing ships. Sometimes it can really irritate you and give you really poor results. But if you're always accurate and you're always precise on your shots, and like I said, consistency is where you're trying to aim at. So sometimes you might miss due to RNG, but if you're a player who's really skillfully accurate, whenever RNG is on your side, that is when you can really do well with the Pensacola, the New Orleans, the what else, the Mogami, the York, the Miyoko, all the high tier heavy crews that you're gonna go against, you will do well in those ships because of your accuracy. And also for battleship players, you know, if you're really good with your accuracy and you're aiming correctly, you will also do well as a player. Aside from that, I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I'll see you guys next time on World of Warships.